this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and back again, his annual visit. Andy Pollock is joining us, president of the South Coast LGBTQ Plus Network.
Yes, indeed.
It is June. It is Pride Month here in New Bedford and elsewhere as well, but obviously we're here focusing on the city and the surrounding communities and whatever. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure, Jim. Always a pleasure.
Lots going on for you right now. Busy time this month. Obviously, recently we had the event at the park.
Yes.
How'd that go?
This year was lovely. Sunscreen was the order of the day, thankfully. It was a wonderful venue. Great performers, good vendors, support. It was nice in the community. Always a pleasure to see everyone coming out. We tried to accommodate, we had a children's section, lots of games and inflatable things they could play with. We had an elder section for the older folks who don't have the, maybe the capacity to walk around for 4 hours at Buttonwood Park, so there's a place for them to sit and eat and have, watch the entertainment.
They're not into the bubble bounce, are they?
Into the bubble bounce. So a great time. Taunton Pride went really well. Things were smooth. We're just really happy. AHA Pride is coming up. It's a great month, so we're really excited about that.
What is when you look at these events, and it's a month. You know, there's different months or what have you that have different connotations, whatever it may be. What's your ultimate goal when you look at these events in this month for you and for the organization?
Yeah, I think we provide a framework for people to show who and what they are and celebrate that. So a lot of times LGBT folks have been told over their lives that they're wrong, they're bad. You know, when I was a kid, it was actually a diagnosis, right? There was a psychological problem. And gender dysmorphia, or the diagnosis of trans, you know, someone uncomfortable with their own body and their sexual gender, or their gender identity, was, I think, changed in 2013. So, you know, when you look at these things and being told you're wrong, told you're bad, told that you're not right, to have a open festival, celebration of who you are actually, who you are to yourself, is really empowering for a lot of people. What I love is when you're at Pride and there are younger people, maybe in their teenagers or young 20s, and it's their first Pride, and they're sort of cautious and they're kind of nervous about being out or being outed, but they get so much
energy,
confidence, yeah, and energy, and just willing to say, yeah, this is who I am, this is where I'm at, and this is, you know, and I'll celebrate that. So I think it's really powerful for our community to show the diversity, to show the breadth, to show the strength.
When you see how the celebration has changed, and I'm sure as you look back on previous ones, you look at it now, what are you most proud of? What do you think has been the key?
Well, I remember many years ago, it was the 25th anniversary of Stonewall, and the police, of all things, led the parade in Boston. And I could hear the cheer as the parade was coming from the crowd, and I thought, what was going on? And the police, and you know, from our community's perspective, the police have not always been our friend. And to have them lead the parade with gay cops or lesbian cops with a pride flag on their horseback, it just was really tremendous for us. And to think in New Bedford, to show a wonderful, diverse, vibrant community that's existing and providing resources and support and other opportunities for our own people, it warms my heart.
Mm. As we talk, I want to touch base too, just on the organization itself. As
Sure.
you're talking to me off camera here, you've got now 13 employees. That's, I mean, we were talking last year, we didn't have that number.
No, when I started as president, we had a part-time employee of 10 hours a week. Now we have 13 employees. We were working with the most marginal and vulnerable in our population, elders, trans, and youth. Youth program is going very well. Trans support, we do Trans Day of Visibility, Trans Day of Remembrance, support groups for trans folks. I really want them to be front and center. And then the elder program, we have 5 supper clubs that are meeting throughout the community. And that is working really well. The elders integrating with younger folks, intergenerational events, some socials that are just for the older folks, even some advocacy. Last year we met with the State Commission on Aging, where we talked about what it was in this community to be growing older as an LGBT person. So I love those different features and facets that are coming through our programmatic pieces.
You touched on, and I watched the show we did last year, we spent a lot of time talking about the elders.
Yes.
In part, and as you'll recall, we were talking about the pandemic and tying it in with everything else. I don't want to say have things improved, but do you see more elders getting involved? Do you
Yes.
see things
Yes,
improving?
very much. Very much. And with the elders, once they are connected, they're really in. They really enjoy it. And it's great. So so excited to see maybe a stratified community becoming more embracing of everyone that's there. So sometimes, the younger folks are a little bit, in our culture, may not value some of the experience and wisdom of the elders.
Right.
And we're trying to encourage both sides to say, hey, listen to each other, tell your stories, and let's move forward together. One interesting story, when we were naming the network in 2014, the younger folks wanted to call it the Queer Network. And the elders were just like, wait, no, that's a bad word. For us, that's a bad word. So we put the Q on it to kind of, put that out there for the younger folks and kind of, compromise. But I thought it was interesting, the different perspectives that different generations have.
But you were saying too, and last year, which was interesting too, is that you said more so for the elder folks, they don't have, in large sense, a support staff that maybe the younger folks or may have, or even the transgender. They seem there's more support. Actually, you were kind of emphasizing that for these elders, they're alone, or they were.
Yeah, you can. There's a great movie called Gen Silent. It was filmed in Boston 15 years ago, and it talks about the situation for the generation above me. And they tend to be more fearful, isolative, have had bad experiences in the past with your healthcare systems or whatever, living situations. They may be somewhat estranged from their family or not connected with their family. They may not have children. So they tend to have smaller social groups that are diminishing.
Right.
And we try to navigate that and work with them to be the support, to be the community. So whether it's congregate housing where they need someone to stand up and advocate for them, or even just simply day-to-day activities like transportation or getting groceries or providing services. The other thing is that unfortunately LGBT folks tend to be on the lower economic side as well. I mean, you see these wealthy LGBT folks in the ads, but the reality is they tend to have a more higher rate of poverty. So reaching out to folks, making sure that they're secure, financially secure, with medical services, housing, all those things, transportation. And then the big one is socialization, so that people get out and get involved and increase their quality of life.
And I want to talk about the programs too, but this specifically, how do you do that? How do you, I want to say find them. How do you know where to go and say, hey, we're here for you?
We found, for instance, even at Melville Towers, there was a LGBT group. Different folks are reaching out, and it seems to be a network, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And once connected, the folks seem to be very devoted to it, which is wonderful.
Are they apprehensive at first, do you find?
I think most people are a little bit, I think we're getting to a critical point with the network that we've been around, we've been active, we've been showing what we can do, we've taken
leadership. You guys are out there. I mean, there's no question you guys are out there.
Yeah.
You know? And it's funny when people say, oh, I didn't know you were there, or didn't.
Right. Where have you been?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you hate to say it, but yeah.
One of the other things the network's doing, not only just programmatically reaching to the vulnerable in our community, we've also taken thought leadership. So in the past, we've done a World AIDS Day a few years ago on the 40th anniversary of the notation of HIV. It was at the university, UMass Dartmouth, well attended by the nursing students. It was phenomenal. All local, which was great too. And we also, 2 years ago, we did a monkeypox symposium with the healthcare systems. Fenway was on the call, and we had about 60 or 70 participants, which was phenomenal.
Right.
And I like it to think that we are taking the leadership in issues that affect our community. And what I say to speeches I give, like beginning of Pride or whatever event I'm at, if we're waiting for someone else to do it for us, we're going to wait a long time.
Right.
And we've learned that with HIV during the AIDS crisis. We learned that through marriage equality. If we don't step up, if our community itself does not step up to take care of those that need taken care of, no one else is going to do it for us. And if we're not going to stand up and take thought leadership and leadership in the community on issues that address us directly, we're going to wait a long time for someone else to step to the plate.
Marriage, I mean, the anniversary.
20 years.
20 years.
Jim, 20 years. Yeah, we fought
Who would have
for
thunk it, you know?
And, you know, you haven't left your wife and gotten a gay marriage.
Now,
Yeah, well, May 17th was the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of marriage equality in Massachusetts, which was the first in the country.
yep.
And it was also the 60th anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education, which I thought, well, that was brilliant that they chose that date to allow marriages to happen. So I had a nice celebratory dinner at my house where we raised a glass for the 20th year. And what's amazing to me is when you start looking back at what the negative things that were being said about us, it was crazy. And I love to read them now, like the nuclear family was going to dissolve, or people were going to leave their spouses and marry someone of the same gender. They're going to marry animals. Crime was going to increase. I don't know how that would have happened, but it seems like from this side of the fence, it's brought a lot more stability to the gay community. And then from the other side of the fence, it's brought a lot more money to the wedding industry.
Right, yeah. Yep. No, but when you think about it, it's gone by in a flash, too,
Yeah.
in 20 years. Do you find, are there more people getting married?
I think it's fairly static. It's a wonderful option. We encourage people to do that.
Because marriage is down, actually, across, you know.
Well, there was a flurry in the beginning. And also, we are concerned about the Supreme Court. There's some justices like Clarence Thomas said that marriage was a big mistake, and they want to rectify it. We see with the Dobbs decision around abortion, where they reversed a standard practice that affected a lot of people and let the states decide. If that were the case, then it would be really detrimental to our community. You know, we fought to not put this on the ballot in Massachusetts with the idea that there are certain things that we do not vote on. We don't vote on civil rights. In the South, if they voted on the rights of African Americans, there'd still be slavery, right? I mean, the courts, in our system, there's a judiciary which protects the rights of minorities. And there's voting, which sets up different parts of the system. But there are different pieces, and there's different reasons why we don't vote on, or at least, you know, on civil rights. So we're nervous about what's going to happen with the Supreme Court if this comes up, and if that's what, you know, what the future may hold for folks who want to get married and who are married.
Do you find a lot of people, you know, with the abortion issue right now, I mean, people are coming out of state, crossing state lines and whatever to you know, have an abortion performed. Over the 20 years, do you find a lot of people coming to Massachusetts?
I'm really glad you brought that up. I work with a nonprofit, my day job, and I've heard of 4 trans folks coming to Massachusetts, coming back to the area or moving to be closer to family where it's safer and there are more progressive laws. I'm also working with this trans woman, a friend of a friend, in Texas who desperately wants to get out of Texas for various and sundry reasons, mostly safety. And when she has applied to jobs up here, her mind is really blown because she's, wow, I mean, she's getting second interviews. You know, people are taking her resume and bringing it to the appropriate folks in the corporations that she's applying for. And she's really been taken seriously. Where in Texas, she's had very little luck and a lot of interference and headwinds. So we're hoping that that is something that will continue as people, you know, if you had a trans kid in Texas, you'd be looking to get out of there.
Right.
If you were, and we hear this anecdotally right now, And I think eventually, as these laws take effect, 700 laws, anti-LGBT laws that are being enacted in state legislatures across the country. And as these things take place, and there are safe havens like Massachusetts, and even our South Coast, that we will see more people coming here. You know, I do see folks coming as economic refugees, coming from different places, because New Bedford, it's a little bit cheaper. It's a great place to be. There are a lot of opportunities for art and culture. But I think we'll start seeing more political refugees coming in.
Do you see the trend continuing nationwide in these things? Or do you think at some point people will say, we got to stop?
I wonder. My personal feel is that a lot of these laws that are going on in the South are the certain agenda that's being raised at the flagpole and tested to see how it flies. So the Don't Say Gay in Florida, Louisiana, Kentucky, or the fact that I would have a different license for marriage than you would in Tennessee, or the fact that you can't get trans services for your kid in Texas, it's illegal, or the myriad of other laws that are dropping, is a practice for national laws. I could see a Don't Say Gay bill across the country if certain political factions come in, which would be very detrimental for younger kids. The suicide rate is very high, hurting, self-inflicted cutting, all these different trends are much higher in the LGBT community. And we're trying to mitigate that. We're trying to lessen that. But putting that stresses from the outside doesn't help these kids or help us as individuals, just trying to live our lives.
But you've also got the challenge too right now, as when you look at different political entities. I mean, you've got folks out there saying, you know, you're forcing your lifestyle on us.
I know. It's interesting as they force their lifestyle on us. I guess my response to that is, if you don't want to have a gay relationship, don't have one. You know, if you don't want to love someone of the same gender and marry them, don't.
And they emphasize like the drag events at the libraries or the books or what have
exactly.
you.
Exactly. I love that. You know, we had a drag story hour that was broken up by the Proud Boys, right? Or the Nazis. I always get them confused. And last week, one of the fellows who broke up the story hour with a mask and uniform, traumatizing the kids, traumatizing our workers, you know, who all had been Corey checked, by the way. This fellow was indicted for child pornography. As someone going in, storming into a event and yelling to protect the children, he himself was looking at is going to jail for child pornography. But, you know, I always tell this story. My parents were evangelicals, right? And they didn't believe in Santa Claus. They did not believe that we should be in that arena as kids. So we didn't go, they didn't talk about Santa Claus. We didn't definitely go and see a man in a costume and have it to sit on his lap and tell them if we've been naughty or nice and he gives us something. They didn't do that. There wasn't a picture of it. And if you think about that, that's a weird cultural thing, that you sit on a strange man's lap who probably smells like gin and tell him if you're naughty or nice, right? I mean, it's kind of bizarre. And I look at drag and it's a man in a costume. It's nothing, you know, there isn't an agenda. There's just goofiness and fun and creativity and joy. If you don't want to go to a drag show, don't go to a drag show. I have more problems with 10-year-olds being taken to Hooters, which really diminishes women. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, kids at a Little League game where they say, hey, you win, boys, you get to go to Hooters, you know, yay! I mean, like, that to me is more of a problem than taking a 6-year-old to someone dressed up like a princess, you know, reading a story. So, you know, these cultural biases are kind of interesting. And when we look at them, we step back and we look at the whole thing. You say, all right, someone in a costume, well, this is okay, but this isn't. I don't understand. And if it's voluntary, no one's forcing anyone, no one has a gun to their head to go to a drag show. What's the big deal? I mean, I don't want to go to prayer meeting. I don't want to go to a snake handling church service. I don't go.
Right.
And my parents didn't bring us to those things, but they didn't throw themselves in front of Macy's and create a scene. So I don't get it. Like, don't bring your kid. Don't do it. Like, I was Santa Claus. You know, my parents, I'd ask and they'd say, you know, they wouldn't give me an answer. But that was okay. I grew up all right.
Well, that's debatable by some people's.
That's true. That's true. And the Santa Claus would probably do the thing. But again, it's the freedom to do this stuff. Everyone's query checked. None of the children are touched, and all the rest of it. If they're so concerned with kids being abused, why don't they look at some of the churches out there? I mean, the Catholic Church itself has a horrible record of child abuse, but I don't see them protesting them. And the Southern Baptists are scandalized by all these problems with abusing women. Yet I don't see them, busting up their services. So it seems very selective to me.
We got a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure we touch on a couple of things programming-wise. You've got with the new staffing or the larger staff, you're probably expanding what your services are. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yes, we geographically we are talking with Bridgewater. We're working with them as a nice collaboration. We're talking with Cape Cod, talking with them with a nice collaboration. We've reached out to some of the groups in Rhode Island, so we're solid between Rainham down to the coast, from Wareham to Seekonk.
So that's our territory.
That's
your territory.
Yes, we figure there's about 25,000 LGBT folks in that area, in this area that we work in. In the programmatic phase,
have you added any more programming?
Oh, there's tons. I can't even tell you from.
Because you've touched on housing and food and some of that stuff, but what are some of the newer things that you're sort of dealing with now?
I think one of the wonderful stories I had of pride was chatting with a young fellow who's a trans man who had come up through foster care system, had been in a group home. Now he's going to college. He has his 4.0 average at BCC. He's transferring to UMass Dartmouth. He wants to be a lawyer. He's driven. He's getting his license. He's like on his path. And I see success story after success story with people like that who, if it wasn't for us, would be floundering. But with people willing to give a hand and to volunteer and to help, these folks are really blossoming, which is great. So systematically, we're looking at supports around financial, educational, like GEDs, getting people in school, getting the families, in therapy if they need it, supports for the family, supports for individuals, and then a community response, so that there's a larger community that they can work with and be integrated in. So sometimes people lose their families because they come out, and we want to provide resources for folks that if that's the case, or even whatever degree that is, then they can feel that they are welcome, accepted, and loved, and cherished, and challenged too. One of the other things we want to do is get younger folks involved in committees, get them involved in boards, train them how to be good community activists.
I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on the community center.
The building, here we are, yes. Yeah. We had a meeting last week. We're looking at Pride next year.
And this is downtown New Bedford. For folks that don't know, it's downtown New Bedford. The location
is 68th Street.
Yep.
So we're
old
excited.
Building, the old Sister Rose house.
And it's the only one of its kind in Massachusetts when we get this completed. So we're very thankful for the contributors. The city of New Bedford has been very generous with us. Other corporations and individuals have been great. We're going to be looking at a public phase, where the last phase of the building, some smaller donations, people kicking in. And then we're hoping that by 2025 Pride, we'll have the building open. So the demolition on the inside of the building is going to be starting. The outside is pretty much complete. And there's been a lot of things, new roof, new windows, everything. So it's going to be really exciting. I can't wait.
And you were talking and just to refresh for people who, we talked about this last year. I mean, when completed, that is going to be a center. I mean, there's going to be, you were talking about classes maybe being held
Sure. Commercial kitchen where people can use it, rent it at night. Kitchen that can provide services like breakfast, dinners and things like that for folks. Different, if they have a elder group that's meeting there for a dinner, we can provide it without worrying with a commercial kitchen, all the permitting being done. Tech center that is generously donated by Comcast, where people can access computers. Older folks who might not have the skill set, younger folks who may feel they need some guidance, working together. It's going to be brilliant. Art space, office space, storage space, shower space for people who might be homeless.
And you were talking about privacy and just having those conversations with people that
Exactly.
need that, because you really don't have that right now.
No, we have an office now in Fall River. We have an office now in Taunton that we've opened. So those are satellite offices. We've been working like vagabonds in New Bedford. We've been at the Co-Creative Center. We've been at the place at the old SMVTI building, Groundworks, and just working out of our homes. But this is going to be a wonderful addition.
Is there anything, once completed, is there any other place like that will be around in the state or anything like that?
No, it's a one of a kind. They do not have something like this in Boston. They've tried in Cambridge, it hasn't worked. The closest one is in Connecticut. And then there's others in the country, but we're just so excited to have something
And
so
I would imagine that really is, as you look down the road long after you're retired, I mean, that is key to have that location, that space. It's really key for the success of the organization.
Well, we've done okay without it, which is
right,
great, and that's the great team of people. But it's going to be an anchor
because it's going to be bigger though. I mean, your organization is going to keep growing, and a space like that is going to be really, like you just said, an anchor.
Right, and I'm fearful that it looks a little small right now. It looked huge when we first got it, and we'll see. But we have been growing quickly. No, I think it's a wonderful symbol to the community of strength, of empowerment, and permanency. So just really thrilled about it. We'll have to do next year. Hopefully we can
maybe do it there.
Do it there.
Maybe do it there.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
It's been, again, a great year, and I know the work keeps going, that's for sure. So best of luck for the next few months. Stay in touch. Again, I know you'll have hopefully the opening celebration, and there'll be a ribbon cutting and what have you.
I hope you're there.
So we should be there. Yeah, I hope, yeah. Andy Pollock, our guest, my thanks.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.